In this video, we will discuss what a full factorial design is, how to create one, and how to analyze the results. A full factorial design is a systematic method for examining the effects and the possible interactions of several factors on a response variable. The aim is to analyze the relationship between several input variables and an output variable. The input variables of the system are called factors, and the output variable is called response variable. Of course, there can also be several response variables. Therefore, factors are the variables believed to affect the response. Each factor now has at least two levels. These levels are the specific values a factor can take, and we want to find out whether a change in the levels of the factors has an influence on the response. Let's look at an example. When you pedal a bike, the wheels rotate around a central rod, known as the axle. To ensure that the wheel can spin, there are bearings. Now imagine you're pedaling your bike on a smooth road. If the bearings are in good condition, the wheels will spin easily. The so-called frictional torque in this case is low. If the bearing is not in a good condition, you have to push harder to keep the same speed because there's more frictional torque. With the help of a full factorial design, we would now like to find out what influences the frictional torque of a bearing. In this case, of course, the frictional torque is our target variable. Possible factors could be lubrication or temperature. For lubrication, there could be the factor levels oiled and greased. And for temperature, there could be the levels low, medium, and high. Now we want to know what influence the different levels have on the response variable. A full factorial design can help us here, especially if we have not just 2, but 3, 4, or 5 variables. A full factorial design can lead to great savings. Depending on the field of study, the system under investigation can be a process, a machine, or a product. But of course also humans, for example, if you want to investigate the influence of medication. But now we still have 4 open questions. How to estimate the number of experiments needed? How does a full factorial design work? How can a full factorial design help to reduce the number of experiments? How to analyze the results? Let's start with the first question. Experiments cost time and money. The number of runs should therefore be kept as small as possible. But beware, if the number of runs is too small, there is a high risk that relevant differences will not be recognized. Let's take a look at our example. We would like to investigate which factors have an influence on the frictional torque of a bearing. Let's start with one factor, lubrication. We would like to know whether it has an influence on the frictional torque if a bearing is oiled or greased. To find out, we take a random sample of 10 bearings. We oil one half of the bearings and grease the other half. Now we can measure the frictional torque of the 5 oiled bearings and the 5 greased bearings. But stop! Why 10 bearings? In most cases, each run costs a lot of money. Perhaps we can manage with fewer runs. So how many experiments do we need in order to find out if the lubricant has an effect on the frictional torque? Let's just start with 10 bearings. We can now calculate the mean value of the frictional torque of the oiled and greased bearings. Then we can calculate the difference between the two mean values. In this sample, we can see that there is a difference between oiled and greased. However, we can already see that the frictional torque in the oiled and greased bearings is highly scattered. If we take another random sample of 10 bearings, it is possible that this time the difference will be greater. But it is also possible that the difference will be in exactly the opposite direction. In other words, the frictional torque of the bearing scatters. The wider the spread, the more difficult it is to identify a specific difference or effect. Fortunately, the variability of the mean value can be reduced by increasing the sample size. The larger the sample size, the more precise is the estimation of the mean. Therefore, the smaller the effect and the wider the spread of the response variable, the larger the sample needs to be. But how much larger? How can you estimate the number of runs needed? you can use this formula as an approximation. Here n is the number of runs, sigma is the standard deviation, and delta is the effect to be determined. For example, if we have a standard deviation of 3 Nm and a difference of 5 Nm is relevant for us, then we need 22 runs. If we only have a standard deviation of 2 Nm, we only need 10 runs. And with a standard deviation of 1 Nm, we get 2.4. So we need 2 runs with greased bearings and 2 runs with oiled bearings. But how can a full factorial design help you reduce the number of experiments? Let's assume that the calculation of the number of runs results in 16 experiments. So 8 runs with oiled bearings and 8 runs with greased bearings. But what if we have a second factor? Let's say in addition to lubrication, we have temperature with low and high. Then we need another 8 runs to take this factor into account. So we need 16 runs to check if the lubricant has an effect and 16 runs to check if the temperature has an effect. This gives us a total of 24 runs. Now the question arises, is it possible to achieve this with fewer runs? And that brings us to the full factorial design. The question is, why should we limit ourselves to testing one factor at a time? Instead, we could devise a design that incorporates the fourth potential combination, which is grease and high temperature. Of course, we still need 16 runs per factor. We get this by making 4 runs with each of the 4 combinations. Then we have 8 runs with oil and 8 with grease, and on the other side 8 with low temperature and 8 with high temperature. We now have a total of 16 runs. Before that, we had 24 runs. We now need fewer experiments and get even more information. Why more information? We now also know whether there is an interaction between temperature and lubrication. For example, oiled bearings may show a variation in frictional torque at different temperatures, which is not observed with greased bearings. This information would have been lost previously. Now, when we have 3 factors instead of 2, the savings are even higher. If we test one of the 3 factors at a time, we need 32 runs. If we now run 2 experiments for each combination in a full factorial design, we still only need 16 runs. However, for each factor we still have 8 tests per factor level. For example, for the lubrication factor we have 8 runs with oil and 8 runs with grease. Of course, we can also create full factorial designs with more than 2 levels. For example, the temperature factor could have 3 factor levels: low, medium and high. However, even with a full factorial design with 2 levels in each factor, the number of runs required increases very quickly as the number of factors increases. In a full factorial design, the number of experiments or runs is n equal to 2 to the power of k, where n is the number of runs and k is the number of factors. Here is a small overview. If we have 3 factors, for example, we have to make at least 8 runs. With 7 factors, it is already at least 128 runs, and with 10 factors, it is already at least 1024 runs. Therefore, full factorial designs are generally only used up to a maximum of 6 or 7 factors. Please note that this table applies to a full factorial design where each factor only has 2 levels, otherwise there will be even more runs. And now I'll show you how you can create a full factorial design online with DataTab and how you can then analyze and interpret the results. To do this, simply go to datatab.net, click on plus and then on DoE. Here you can choose which type of design you want to create. We want to create a full factorial design. In this case, we assume that each factor has only 2 levels. In the second case, there is no restriction and you can define the number of levels for each factor. We will simply use the design with 2 levels. Next, we can find the number of factors. We take 3 factors and now we can define the names and the values of the factor levels. Let's say temperature with low and high. lubrication with oil and grease, and material with steel and ceramic. Now we can see the created test plan. Each row is now an experiment. The first experiment we do, for example, with temperature low, with lubrication oil and material steel. If we want, we can still choose the order randomly so that there is as little influence as possible regarding the order. Depending on how many runs we need, we can determine the number of replications. We'll just take 2. Each combination is now performed twice, so we don't have 8 runs but 16. Now we can export the table to Excel and carry out the individual experiments. We then write down the friction torque obtained for each experiment. Note, these values are just fictional. Once we have performed all experiments, we can copy the data back to Data tab and analyze them. To do this, we click on DoE Analysis and then select all factors and the target value. Now we can click on the 2-factor interactions and the 3-factor interaction. We now get the regression coefficients with coded values, the Pareto diagram, the regression coefficients with uncoded values, and the results of the analysis of variance. What is the difference between coded and uncoded regression coefficients? In our example, we have categorical factor levels. If we copy these into Data tab simply numbers the different categories with values. For the temperature factor, for example, the category low has the value 1 and high the value 2. Of course, we can also change this. We can also give low the value -1 and high the value 1. And this is exactly what is done automatically with the coded coefficients. Here the categories are automatically set to -1 and 1. How are the results interpreted? The first step is to analyze which factors and interactions have a significant influence on the frictional torque. A factor interaction has a statistically significant influence if the p-value in this table is smaller than 0.05. In this case, the temperature factor has a p-value of less than 0.05, as well as the lubrication and the material. All main effects therefore have a significant influence on the frictional torque. We can also see that the interaction between temperature and lubrication also has a significant influence. However, the other interactions have a p-value of 0.5, which is greater than 0.05. So these interactions have no significant influence on the frictional torque. Exactly the same can be seen in this Pareto diagram. In the diagram, the amount of the t-value is plotted. For temperature, for example, the value of T is 26.16, which we can also see in the table above. The red line indicates the critical t-value, i.e., above this value we obtain a p-value of less than 0.05 and therefore a significant value. The results show that the last 3 interactions are not significant. In order to obtain the final results, the non-significant factors and interactions are now removed from the model. So we remove these 3 interactions from the model. We've now created our model and determined the significant factors and interactions. In addition, Data tab displays the results in diagrams, and you can view the results of the analysis of variance. Finally, the optimal input parameters can be calculated in order to minimize or maximize the target value. Of course, this makes particular sense if we have metric factors, which in the best case have been measured with 3 factor levels each. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.